Today, we're in another wet belt series, but this one is on a Peugeot 3008. This is a 67 plate car. We've got the PSA engine, 47,000 miles. We do have a slight oil pressure light first thing in the morning. Let's see how bad the strainer is. Might actually clear some of this out of the way first. These on the Peugeots always get so stuck. These are probably similar difficulty to the Transit ones. Definitely better than the EcoBoost. Set its fuel line off. Undo the cam cover. Drop that one. Found it. You can see straight away here on the belt, we've got quite a few cracks. All we need to do is slightly align our cams so we're roughly there or thereabouts. Then we'll take it up in the air, we'll lock the crank, then we'll come back down and retime the top. So we've got to take the vacuum pump out now, because that's where the timing tool goes in the back of. 8mm there, 8mm there. On vacuum pump. We've got a Peugeot under tray. Shall we play the game? How many are going to come undone? How many are already snapped? Let's see what we get. 1, 2. That one's already broken. This one's already broken. 2. It's not bad. We've got the pin to lock the crank. So these are a little bit of a pain to line up on the crank, but you'll know you're in, because your tool will go pretty much all the way in and you can't turn the crank either way. Got a little present there hanging out of the strainer for us. 47,000 miles. Wow, how much was stuck in there. Here it is, look. This is why the oil pressure light's on, because all of this is just blocking up the strainer. There are some situations where Peugeot will do it under warranty. You need to have your full service history and you need to have a listed item of everything that went in it. So it has to be the correct oil, it has to be the correct oil filler. Everything has to be correct and it has to be itemized on your invoice. If you don't have that, they won't do it, unfortunately. So if you're in that situation, come to us and we'll sort it out for you. You can see the caviar coming out bit by bit. Get rid of some of the drippage. I'm just putting this cardboard down now because I need to move this drainer out of the way, and the last thing I want to do is get the floor covered in oil. Always use a bar first, especially on Peugeots, because they have this type of locking wheel nut where it's just these individual lugs, they're really weak. Alternate belt off. Take this crank pulley off and the water pump belt will come with it. Over-engineered, isn't it? Jesus. Cover off. And then we can see our belt, guide and tensioner. Put that in there. And this sits back here. Even though it's got timing marks and pins, I'm just making my own reference point. There we go, belt out. As you can see straight away, lots of fraying, really bad cracks. Look at that. I mean, that one's almost right the way through. Look at that. And on the inside, you can see all the different discolorations here. Any day now, a startup was going to rip one of these teeth off. Nasty, look at that. For 47,000 miles, it's 7 years old. Wow. I'm not 100% sure what the mileage is meant to be on these, but it's probably close to 100,000 that they're meant to go to. We're on not even half that. So when you're doing these PSA engines, they have a couple of filters. One of them is on your vacuum pump here. You can see this little gauze blocked up with some of the timing belt bits. There's also one here that sits in the top. Now we've got the top half of it out, but I can see the second half in the bottom there. So now, unfortunately for this customer, this top cam section is going to have to come off and we're going to have to retrieve that plastic bit. These things happen, you know, you take stuff apart and you find stuff that's broken. Luckily for this customer, we can still see that plastic bit, all right? If that had broken off and gone deep into the engine, that could cause a lot of damage in there. Taking our timing tools out because the camshafts have got to come out. And what we're after is that little bad boy there. And it was sat there just underneath a cam lobe. Let's get all this cleaned up, get it back together. I'm only putting the injectors back in to clean up so none of the rubbish falls into the injector ports and into the engine bores. So this top section's been cleaned now. We've already cleaned the head, so we'll just get silicone around here and then we'll get it back on. And this just slides on there. Don't panic, I know it's on a battery gun. It's literally on the weakest setting and I'm not even letting it touch. Setting it to 8mm and then we've got our specific torque pattern here. To put my timing tools back in. We've got a genuine kit from Peugeot. We're going to take you through what we've got. The sump here, water pump as well, vacuum pump gaskets depending on what one it has. In the actual timing belt kit you get those vacuum pump gaskets, you get the water pump belt. This is a crank pulley but I've already taken the bolt out. Rocker cover gaskets again depending on what one it has. The front crank seal, you get injector rebuild kits with the seals. Your fuel pipe because you should replace them every time you take them off. You get some bolts, your camshaft pulley bolts if you take them off. Again, you've seen that you don't have to do this job. You get your tensioner, your guide, you get your 2 blanks, your timing belt cover gasket, and then of course your timing belt, just not tensioner and guide bolts. To be a perfect, amazing kit, if it came with these 2 bolts, it would be perfect. So I know some of you guys like time frames, so we started on Tuesday, we're now on Wednesday, all because of these 2 bolts that don't come in the timing kit. So we had some people mention our TikTok videos on these 1.2 PSA engines and what you need to clean out. Some of them are on about this little gauze in here. We've already cleaned that out. There's a little filter here. Now, if you've been paying attention to the video, we'll have to be getting a new one of them because that went inside. Also, you need to clean out these little solenoids here because these have little gauze filters on them as well. So we've taken those out. There's one back here also, and we've cleaned them out too. This is just to stop the belt from popping off while we're sorting the underneath. Just fit the crank pulley bolt loosely just so you don't lose your pulleys. Guiding. The tensioner in. When you fit these, you've got to make sure that your Allen key's at 11 o'clock. There we go. Anti-clockwise until your marks line up. Pinch this bolt up so it can't move, and then you can torque it up. You still want your Allen key in there just to make sure that nothing moves. Just do up our crank pulley bolt, and we'll take the pin out at the bottom, the timing tool's out the top, turn it over, make sure everything lines up again. There we go. Take our tools out. Take the exhaust camshaft tool out. That's that. Now, unlike the transits, we only have to turn this over 4 times. Let's turn it over nice and easy because it's got no injectors in it, so there is 0 compression. Camshaft in. That's perfect. The camshafts line up. Let's make sure the crankshaft does. Bang on, straight in. The crank pins are in, the cam pins are in, the tensioner is in perfect place. So let's get it all back together. Just clean off the cover, put a new gasket in. And just gentle taps, just get it past the tool. And this can come out. It's not quite a special tool, but it does the job, that's for sure. So we've got a socket that fits perfectly around the crankshaft seal. We can just tap it home. There you go. And we're completely flush whole way around. Perfect. We're also replacing the water pump on this car while we're here. Let's get that done. Are we going to get our first shower of the week? It's going really well. New one. Water pump done. There. So water pump belt's on. Now we've just got to get the alternator belt back on. There we go. Don't want any oil touching any of the surfaces. So in our timing toolkit here, we have for these PSAs, should have mentioned this at the beginning, but we didn't. It also comes with this belt checker. Now this is how you check whether your belt needs doing or not. They've actually come up with a really good idea. So what you do is you put it in your little oil cap and you go round, and this should be how thick the belt is. And as you can see, we cannot get it on. But if you come over to the new one, it fits nicely in between those two lines. A little bit of room as well. And as you can tell here, can't even get it on. So that means the belt's swollen up because it's absorbed so much of the oil. Quick way of checking if it needs doing. We've got our little valve. This is the bit we got out, and this is the bit that stayed in and fell in. Because as you can see, they've got little tabs. So it doesn't like coming out, but unfortunately these block up, so they have to come out. What great design. Just put a little bit of rubber safe grease around the outside of it just to help it go in. And that's it in. Change this gasket. There we go. Now we follow this pattern so that we don't crack this top cam cover. A new gasket for the fuel pump. So we've rebuilt the injectors using the new kit. Now we've just got to put them in. This is the little gauze inside your vacuum pump. Make sure you clean this out. We've got a couple of little bits left in there that we need to get out. Put that back in there. So we've got a new fuel line, and what we're going to do is going to save these because these can be useful for like blanking off injectors and stuff like that, finding fuel pressure faults. We'll keep that. Make sure that there's no excess Victor lines left in there. Pop these new caps in. Voila. Flip. Straight in. Bosh. And just wash off some of our mess from cleaning out the injector holes. Sprays a little bit of everywhere. The wet belt side of things done and wrapped up. What we'll do now is we'll push the vehicle outside because we've got to wait for that silicone from the sump to go off, and then we'll top up with all later. So on the following morning now, we've let the silicone go off on the sump. We've put the oil in, we've put the antifreeze in, we've run it up, we've checked it for leaks, we're all good underneath. It's a little bit easier than the EcoBoost, but again, it isn't just these lot that have the wet belts. Some Hondas have them. These engines are fitted in Citroens. Lots of cars have a wet belt, so make sure that you get checked, see if you have a wet belt, and if you do, you're better off getting it replaced.